Well, not everyone's going to get along. You spend a long time on a bus with someone, chances are you'll want to pull out your hair or maybe theirs. Here are 10 instances where rockers made shocking statements against their own bandmates. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Book. Roger Daltrey on Pete Townshend. Daltrey's admitted that working with Townshend is often challenging, referring to him as a genius but a difficult man, highlighting their tumultuous relationship within The Who. And with each of these bands, we will share with you their highest charting song and their biggest albums. With The Who, while Baba O'Riley is not The Who's highest charting single, it is one of The Who's most iconic songs. And The Who's biggest album, Tommy the Rock Opera, released in 1969, telling the story of a deaf, dumb, and blind boy who becomes a pinball champion and a spiritual leader. The album is celebrated for its ambitious narrative, complex musical compositions, and its role in elevating the concept of a rock album as an art form. The album has sold over 20 million copies. Number 9, Dave Mustaine on Metallica. Mustaine has frequently criticized Metallica members, especially Lars Ulrich, calling him a Danish poser and expressing his bitterness over being fired from the band. The highest charting single from Metallica is not, as many may think, Enter Sandman, which, by the way, peaked at number 16. It is Until It Sleeps. That one peaked at number 10, released May 20th, 1996, from the album Load, their biggest album. Metallica, the Black Album, released in 1991. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, achieving worldwide fame. Number 8, Liam Gallagher on his brother Noel Gallagher. Their feuds are legendary, with Liam calling Noel a potato, and many other insults over the years, leading to an Oasis breakup. The biggest song for Oasis, Wonderwall, from their 1995 album, What's the Story Morning Glory, became an international hit, and it's one of their most enduring songs. Their biggest album, same thing. What's the Story Morning Glory is also their biggest album. It topped the charts in multiple countries and became one of the best-selling albums in British history. Number 7, not surprising, Axl Rose on Slash. Axl Rose has publicly called Slash a cancer in Guns N' Roses, leading to a lengthy period of animosity between them, before eventually reconciling years later. Biggest song for Guns N' Roses, Sweet Child O' Mine. It's from Appetite for Destruction, and it topped the Billboard Hot 100 in 1988, and it's celebrated for Slash's iconic guitar riff, and of course those dynamic vocals from Axl Rose. Appetite was their biggest, reaching number 1 on the Billboard Top 200 Albums chart. Number 6, Eddie Van Halen and David Lee Roth. Van Halen often referred to Roth as a loose cannon and criticized his behavior and attitude, which contributed to Roth's departure from Van Halen. Biggest song for Van Halen was Jump, to no one's surprise, from 1984. It's their most successful single, reaching number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 with its very catchy synth riff and man, that energetic performance on the video. And the biggest album for Van Halen, their debut, selling at over 12 million copies. That's followed by 1984 with slightly below that number, even though those two albums take their turn at number 1, going back and forth as far as sales. Number 5, Don Henley on Glenn Frey. After Frey's death, Henley described their relationship as strained, admitting that they clash over leadership in the Eagles. Their long-standing tensions were often public knowledge. The biggest song for the Eagles? Well, it's their signature song for sure, Hotel California, with that iconic guitar solo and those enigmatic lyrics. Topped the Billboard charts in 1977 and remains one of the band's biggest tunes. Their greatest album is their greatest hits, 71 to 75. It's one of the biggest selling albums in U.S. history, sometimes fighting to outrank Thriller by Michael Jackson in the U.S., even though worldwide Michael Jackson is much bigger. Number 4, Steven Tyler on Joe Perry. In his memoir, Tyler described Perry as a toxic twin due to their drug-fueled antics and frequent conflicts within Aerosmith. And of course, the pair have been called the Toxic Twins many times. The biggest song for Aerosmith, it's interesting because it's not a typical Aerosmith song, it's a rock ballad by Diane Warren, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. It was from the film Armageddon, and it was Aerosmith's only number 1 hit in 1998. The biggest album for Aerosmith, Get a Grip, from 1993. It has sold over 20 million copies. Number 3, David Crosby on Neil Young. Crosby once called Young's then-girlfriend Daryl Hannah a purely poisonous predator, which led to a significant fallout between the two musicians and strained their relationship for years. Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, their highest charting song was Ohio. Written by Neil Young in response to the Kent State shootings, it became a significant protest anthem, reaching number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1970. Their biggest album is Deja Vu from 70. It's the group's highest charting album, peaking at number 1 on the Billboard 200, Roger Waters on David Gilmour. Waters often criticized Gilmour, calling him a jolly good guitarist and singer, but questioned his creative input in Pink Floyd. The tension between them is well documented, especially around the time of Waters' departure from the band. Pink Floyd's highest charting song is Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 from their huge album The Wall. It topped the charts in several countries, including the US, with its memorable anthem-like chorus and social commentary. Their biggest album is Dark Side of the Moon. From 1973, it's their most commercially successful album, spending 741 weeks on the Billboard 200, becoming one of the best-selling albums of all time. Number 1, John Lennon on Paul McCartney. In an interview with Rolling Stone, Lennon referred to McCartney's songs as granny music, showing his sometimes disdain for some of McCartney's contributions to the Beatles' latter albums. And the Beatles' highest charting, well, if you tabulate everything up till today, which includes physical sales and digital, She Loves You from August of 63 comes in the first, followed by I Want to Hold Your Hand, December 63, Can't Buy Me Love from March of 64, I Feel Fine from December 64, Day Tripper, We Can Work It Out from December 65, followed by Hey Jude, September 68. Though some list will say Hey Jude's the biggest. Now here's where it gets interesting. As far as the Beatles go, the top 5 on Spotify, which also represents a younger audience, is Come Together at 740 million, Let It Be at 690 million streams, Yesterday at 651, Twist and Shout at 494, and by far the biggest song, and it could be the quiet, overlooked Beatles song, George Harrison's Here Comes the Sun is by far the biggest Beatles song on Spotify at 1,326,911,000. The Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band from 1967 is often considered their most iconic album, topping the charts worldwide and revolutionizing the concept of the album as an art form. Another major success, Abbey Road in '69, is always celebrated for its very innovative production and that famous medley on Side B. Again, you spend enough time with someone in and out of the studio, in and out of a bus or a plane, tensions will rise. Remember, if you want to help the channel, you can contribute. There's a PayPal link at the very top of the description. You can join our Patreon and get early access to all our videos. The link is also on top. Remember, subscribe to our channel, share our videos, comment on them, and like them. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Book.